Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to video series on Windows Server 2012. Moving, deleting, and renaming OUs. The process of moving, deleting, and renaming OUs is a simple one. Exercise 5.2 shows how you can easily modify and reorganize OUs to reflect changes in the business organization. The specific scenario covered in this exercise includes the following changes. The research and engineering departments have been combined to form a department known as Research and Development, RD. The sales department has been moved from the corporate headquarters office to the New York office. The marketing department has been moved from the corporate headquarters office to the Chicago office. Exercise 5.2, modifying OU structure. Click the Windows key on the keyboard, choose Administrative Tools, open Active Directory, Users and Computers, Administrative Tool. Right-click the Engineering OU located within North America, Corporate, and click Delete. When you are prompted for confirmation, click Yes. Note that if this OU contained objects, they would have all been automatically deleted as well. Right-click and rename Research OU and select Rename. Type RD to change and rename the OU and press Enter. Right-click the Sales OU, select Move, and in the Move dialog box, expand the North America branch and click New York OU and click OK to move the OU. You will use an alternate method to move the marketing OU. Drag the marketing OU and drop it onto the Chicago OU. When you have finished, you should see an OU structure similar to the one shown here. Close the Active Directory Users and Computers Administrative Tool. Administering Properties of OUs. Although OUs are primarily created for organizational purposes within the Active Directory environment, they have several settings that you can modify. To modify the properties of an OU, using the Active Directory Users and Computers Administrative Tool, right-click the name of any OU and select Properties. When you do, the OU's property dialog box appears. In the example shown in figure 5.4, you will see the options on the General tab. In any organization, it helps to know who is responsible for managing the OU. You can set this information on the Managed By tab, see figure 5.5. The information specified on this tab is convenient because it is automatically pulled from the contact information on a user record. You should consider always having a contact for each OU within your organization so that other system administrators know whom to contact if they need to make any changes. Delegating control of OUs in simple environments. One or a few system administrators may be responsible for managing all of the settings within Active Directory. For example, a single system administrator could manage all users within all OUs in the environment. In larger organizations, however, roles and responsibilities may be divided among many different individuals. A typical situation is one in which a system administrator is responsible for objects within only a few OUs in an Active Directory domain. Alternatively, one system administrator might manage user and group objects, while another is responsible for managing file and print services. Fortunately, using Active Directory Users and Computer Tools, you can quickly and easily ensure that specific users receive only the permissions they need. In exercise 5.3, you will use the Delegation of Control wizard to assign permissions to individuals. To complete these steps successfully, first you must have created the objects in the previous exercise of this chapter, exercise 5.3. Using the Delegation of Control wizard. 1. Click the Windows key on the keyboard and choose administrative tools. 2, open the Active Directory users and computers administrative tool. 3, right-click the corporate OU within the North America OU and select Delegate Control. This starts the delegation of control wizard. Click next to begin configuring security settings. 4, in the users or user group or groups page, click the add button. In the enter the object names to select field, enter accounts operators, click the check names button, click OK, and click next to continue. 5, in the task to delegate page, select delegate the following common tasks and place a check mark next to the following items: create, delete, and manage user accounts, reset user passwords and force password change, and next log on, read all user information, create, delete, and manage groups, modify the membership of a group. 6, click next to continue. 7, completing the delegation of control wizard page then provides a summary of the operations you have selected. To implement the changes, click finish. Exercise 5.4, delegating custom tasks. 1, click the Windows key on the keyboard, choose administrative tools. 2, open the Active Directory users and computers administrative tool. 3, right-click the corporate OU within the North America OU and select Delegate Control. This starts the delegation of control wizard. Click next to begin making security changes. 4, in the users or groups page, click the add button. In the enter the object names to select field, enter server operators, click the check names button, click OK, and then click next to continue. 5, in the task to delegate page, click the create a custom task to delegate radio button and click next to continue. 6, in the Active Directory object type page, choose only the following objects in the folder and place a check mark next to the following items: user objects, computer objects, contact objects, group objects, organizational unit objects, printer objects. 7, click next to continue. 8, in the permissions page, place a check mark next to the general option and make sure the other options are not checked. Note that if the various objects within your Active Directory schema have had property specific settings, you would use those options here. Place a check mark next to the following items: create all child objects, read all properties, write all properties. This gives members of the server operators group the ability to create new objects within the corporate OU and the permissions to read and write all properties for these objects. 9, click next to continue. 10, the completing and the delegation of control wizard provides a summary of the operations you have selected. To implement the changes, click finish. Troubleshooting OUs. In general, you will find using OUs to be relatively straightforward and painless process. With adequate planning, you will be able to implement an intuitive and useful structure for OU objects. The most common problems with OU configuration are related to the OU structure. When troubleshooting OUs, pay careful attention to the following factors: inheritance. By default, group policy and other settings are transferred automatically from parent OUs to child OUs and objects. Even if a specific OU is not given a set of permissions, objects within that OU might still get them from parent objects. Delegation of administration. If you allow the wrong user accounts or groups to perform specific tasks in OU, you might be violating your company's security policy. Be sure to verify the delegation you have made at each OU level. Organizational issues. Sometimes business practices do not easily map to the structure of Active Directory. A few misplaced OUs, user accounts, computer accounts, or groups can make administrative difficult and or inaccurate. In many cases, it might be beneficial to rearrange the OU structure to accommodate any changes in the business organization. In others, it might make more sense to change business processes, creating and managing Active Directory objects. Now that you are familiar with the task of creating OUs, you should find creating and managing other Active Directory objects quite simple. The following sections will examine the details. Overview of Active Directory objects. When you install and configure a domain controller, Active Directory sets up an organizational structure for you, and you can create and manage several types of objects. Active Directory organization. When you are looking at your Active Directory structure, you will see objects that look like folders in Windows Explorer. These objects are containers and organizational units, OUs. The difference is that an OU is a container to which you can link a GPO. Normal containers cannot have a GPO linked to them. That's what makes an OU a special container. By default, after you install and configure a domain controller, you will see the following organizational sections within the Active Directory users and computers tool. They look like folders built in. The built-in container includes all of the standard groups that are installed by default when you promote a domain controller. You can use these groups to administer the servers in your environment. Example includes the administrators group, backup operators group, and printer and print operators group. Computers. By default, the computers container contains a list of the workstations in your domain. From here, you can manage all of the computers in your domain. Domain controllers. The domain controllers OU includes a list of all of the domain controllers for the domain. Foreign security principle. Containers are any objects to which security can be assigned and that are not part of the current domain. Security principles are Active Directory objects to which permissions can be applied, and they can be used to manage permissions in Active Directory. The managed service accounts container is a new Windows Server 2012 R2 container. Service accounts are accounts created to run specific services such as Exchange and SQL Server. Having a managed service accounts container allows you to control the service accounts better and thus allows for better service account security. Users. The users container includes all the security accounts that are part of the domain. When you first install the domain controller, there will be several groups in the container. Active Directory objects. You can create and manage several different types of Active Directory objects. The following are specific object types. Computer. Computer objects represent workstations that are part of the Active Directory domain. All computers within a domain share the same security database, including user and group information. Computer objects are useful for managing security permissions and enforcing group policy restrictions. Contact. Objects are usually used in OUs to specify the main administrative contact. Contacts are not security principles. It's like users. They are used to specify information about individuals outside the organization. Group. Group objects are logical collections of users primarily for assigning security permissions to resources. When managing users, you should place them into groups and then assign permissions to the group. This allows for flexible management without the need to set permissions for individual users. The InetOrgPerson object is an Active Directory object that defines attributes of users in lightweight directory access protocol, LDAP, and X.500 directories. MSIMaging-PSPs is a container for all enterprise scan post scan process objects, and MSMQ alias object is an Active Directory object for the MSMQ custom recipient class type. The Microsoft message queuing MSMQ alias object associates an Active Directory path and a user-defined alias with a public, private, or direct single element format name. This allows a queue alias to be used to reference a queue that might not be listed in Active Directory Domain Services ADDS organizational unit. An OU object is created to build a hierarchy within the Active Directory domain. It is the smallest unit that can be used to create administrative groups, and it can be used to assign group policies. Generally, the OU structure within a domain reflects a company's business organization. Printer object maps to printers, shared folder objects maps to server shares. They are used to organize the various file resources that may be available on file print servers. Often shared folder objects are used to give logical names to specific file locations. For example, system administrators might create separate shared folders for common applications, user data, and shared public files. A user object is the fundamental security principle on which Active Directory is based. User accounts contain information about individuals as well as password and other permission information. Creating objects using the Active Directory Users and Computers tool. Exercise 5.5 walks you through the steps necessary to create various objects within an Active Directory domain. In this exercise, you can create some basic Active Directory objects. To complete this exercise, you must have access to at least one Active Directory domain controller. Exercise 5.5. Creating Active Directory objects. 1. Click the Windows key on the keyboard and choose Administrative Tools. 2. Open the Active Directory Users and Computers tool. 3. Expand the current domain to list the objects currently contained within it. For this exercise, you will use the second and third level OUs contained within the North America top level OU as shown here. 4. Right-click the corporate OU, click Next. User, fill in the following information. First name Maria, last name President, full name leave as default, user logon name MD President, leave default domain. Click Next to continue. 5. Enter password for the password for this user and then confirm it. Note that you can also make changes to password settings here. Click Next. 6. You will see a summary of the user information. Click Finish to create a new user. 7. Click the RD container and create another user in that container with the following information. First name John, initial Q, last name Adams. Full name leave as default, user logon name JQ Adams, leave default name. Click Next to continue. 8. Assign the password. Click Next and then click Finish to create the user. 9. Right click RD OU and select New Contact. Use the following information to fill in the properties of the contact object. First name Jane, initials or last name admin, display name JR admin. Click OK to create the new contact object. 10. Right click the RD OU and select New Shared Folder. Enter software for the name and //server1 /applications for the network path, also known as the Universal Naming Convention, UNC path. Note that you can create the object even though this resource, the physical server, does not exist. Click OK to create the shared folder object. 11. Right-click HROU, select New Group, type all users for the group name. Do not change the name of the value in the group name pre-Windows 2000 field. For group scope, select Global And for group type, select security. To create a group, click OK. 12. Right-click the Sales OU, select New Computer Type Workstation 1 for the name of the computer. Notice that the pre-Windows 2000 name is automatically populated, and by default, the members of the domain admins group are the only ones who can add this computer to the domain. Place a check mark in the Assign This Computer account as a pre-Windows 2000 compute box, and then click OK to create the computer object. 13. Close Active Directory, users and computer tools. Configuring the user principal name. When you log into a domain, your logon name looks like an email address. For example, wpanic@willpanic.com. This is called your user principal name, UPN. A UPN is the username followed by the @ and the domain name at the same time that the user account is created. The UPN suffix is generated by default. The UPN is created as username at domain name, but an administrator can alter or change the default UPN. If your forest has multiple domains, you need to change the UPN to a different domain. You have that ability to change the UPN suffix. In Active Directory users and computers, choose a user and go into their properties. Choose the Attribute Editor tab. Scroll down to the user principal name attribute and make your changes. These changes then get replicated to the global catalog. Using templates. Now you are going to dive into user templates. User templates allow an Active Directory administrator to create a default account, for example, template_sales, and use that account to create all of the other users who match it, all the salespeople. If you are creating multiple accounts, this can save you a lot of time and resources. For example, if you need to add 35 new salespeople to your company, you'll create one template for sales and use a copy of that template for all of the other new accounts. This saves you the trouble of filling out many of the same fields over and over again. When you copy a template, some of the information does not get copied over. This is because it is user-specific information. Here are some of the fields that do not get copied over from a template: name, logon name, password, email, phone numbers, description, office, web page. Many of the important fields, such as members of groups to which the user belongs, profile, path, department, and company, all get copied over. There is one important item that needs to be done when creating a template. The template account needs to be disabled after creation. You do not want anyone using this account to access your network. In exercise 5.6, you will create a sales template to use for your sales department. Exercise 5.6, creating a user template. 1, click the Windows key on the keyboard, choose Administrative Tools. 2, open the Active Directory users and computers snap-in. 3, expand the current domain to list the objects contained within it. For this exercise, you will use the Sales OU. Right-click the Sales OU and choose New User. 4, use the following properties: first name sales, last name template, username sales_template. Password, click next, then click finish. 6, in the right window, double click sales template user to open the properties. 7, on the general tab, complete the following items: description, template account, office, corporate, telephone, 999999999, email salet@abc.com, web www.abc.com. 9, click the profile tab. In the profile tab, type // server a %, username %. On the Members tab, click the Add button enter the object name to select box. Type Administrator and click Check Names button. Normally, you would not add salespeople to the administrators group, but you are doing so just for this exercise. Click OK. 10. Click the Account tab, scroll down in the Account Options box, check the account is disabled, check box 11. Click OK in the Users Properties windows, go back Sales OU. 12, right-click the Sales template, account, choose Copy. 13, enter the following information. First name Jenny, last name Sales, username J, Sales, password. Uncheck the account is disabled, checkbox. 14. In the right window, double-click Jenny Sales user to open the properties. 15. Take a look at the Members of tab, the General tab, and the Profile tab, and you will see that some of the fields are pre-filled, including the Administrators group. 16. Close Jenny Sales Properties and exit Active Directory users and computers. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.